Hi everyone. So I woke up this morning to this from the Hill. Trump warns of military action with North Korea if sanctions don't work. A reporter asked him a question and he answered it. Here's the clip.
On North Korea, the sanctions, if they don't work, are all options still on the table? Can I get your answer and also the Prime Minister's thoughts?
Well, to the second, we'll have to see. I don't think I'm going to exactly play that card, but we'll have to see. If the sanctions don't work, we'll have to go phase two. And phase two may be a very rough thing, may be very, very unfortunate for the world. But hopefully the sanctions will work. We have tremendous support all around the world for what we're doing. It really is a rogue nation. If we can make a deal, it'll be a great thing. And if we can't, something will have to happen.
Okay, that's worrying. To be fair to him, he has said, we'll see. But then he's gone on, as he normally does, can't help himself and starts talking about phase two. Now, phase two, I assume, and everybody is assuming, is war, is bombing. If you go back to his Fire and Fury quote, when he said that North Korea will be met by fire and fury like the world has never seen. Well, we've seen what one or two nuclear bombs does. It can only be nuclear war that he's talking about. Now, the problem with that, obviously he's giant, but the main thing is there is no course of action, and Mattis has said this, there is no course of action that America can take against North Korea that doesn't immediately mean the death of millions of South Koreans. South Korea is within reach of North Korea's conventional missiles, which they have on the border. It takes a while for a nuclear weapon to land. You get, if it's an intercontinental ballistic missile, you get about 30 minutes warning that you get, okay, do we react with a missile? Now, obviously, America have THAAD, T-H-A-A-D, set up in that area. But even with that, the amount of missiles that can be launched against South Korea, THAAD is going to be ineffective. So millions of South Koreans die. And then you've got to look at the ramifications of what happens after that. So if America and Trump goes to war with North Korea, you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to escalate and other countries are going to get roped in, and the chances of World War III happening increase exponentially. Now, I know people will say that's hyperbolic, it won't happen, but look at history. World War I started because some archduke called Ferdinand, who the Western world had never heard of, got assassinated. That's how World War I started. World War II started with the invasion of Poland. A nuclear weapon being launched on North Korea, well, I'd be surprised if other countries weren't roped in. I'd be very surprised. I can't stress how badly the media, the cable news in America is needed at this time. I can't stress how they need to hold him accountable and need to be shocked and horrified at what he's suggesting here, but they won't do that at all. They're going to bring on generals, they're going to bring on people from the military industrial complex to almost guarantee that they'll be behind whatever Trump is going to do and be patriotic. And anybody who's against war, they will smear as being unpatriotic and a communist and all that sort of thing. You can see it coming with the way they've been reacting around this Russia nonsense. There is no course of action here that Trump can take which is not going to lead to war. Now, he's talked about the sanctions. Now, I stressed this in my last video. Who do sanctions affect? Do they affect the Kims? Do they affect the generals? Do they affect the elite in North Korea? There's two different types of people in North Korea. There are the normal people, which is 90% of the country, and then you've got the elite. And the elite in North Korea, they look on the military in North Korea with disdain. They're not treated the same way because they've got money. The people are going to suffer with sanctions. The people are going to die. The people are not going to be able to get food and medicine to live. So you're punishing the people. You're not punishing the Kims. You're not punishing Kim Jong-un by more sanctions. And why are they implementing these sanctions as well? Well, as it turns out, they're implementing these sanctions because they're harbouring terrorists. Really? What terrorists? What terrorist organisation are the North Koreans harbouring? What people need to know, and what the cable news are not going to tell you, is this. The last 3 presidents of the United States, that's Obama, that's Bush, and Trump, have all been offered by North Korea, have all said, if you stop your war games on our border that you're doing with South Korea, we'll cease our nuclear program. The offer is on the table. Now people will say, well, they've given these offers before and gone back on them. Well, okay, then you deal with that when it happens. But you certainly don't say no for 20 years or whatever it is and escalate things to the brink of world war just because you don't believe somebody. That's pathetic. Can you imagine how America would react if Russia started doing war games on the border of Mexico? I don't think that they would be as patient as North Korea would. Now, I'm no North Korean sympathiser. He's a fucking horrible man. The whole family's horrible, and it's a dictatorship. It's as simple as that. But is that any reason to go to war with them? Whenever Trump has made any sort of threats towards North Korea in the past, what has happened? Whenever he's done any sort of threats like this towards North Korea, what has happened? North Korea have responded with a missile test or a nuclear test. So I can almost guarantee you in the next 2 weeks, I'd be amazed if North Korea didn't do another missile test over Japan or whatever, or some sort of underground nuclear test as a show of strength. They have to. They've got no choice. Because if they say, okay, we'll stop our nuclear program, we'll give up our nuclear weapons, what happens? They're going to get invaded anyway. Kim, he's not stupid. These generals are not stupid. They will have seen what happened to Saddam Hussein when he gave his weapons of mass destruction up. What happened? Well, they didn't believe him. They made up some concocted story about Osama bin Laden and that anthrax thing. Who can forget Colin Powell at the UN? And they went to war with him anyway because they knew he didn't have any weapons of mass destruction. They knew he couldn't actually inflict any lasting damage. Then we come to Libya. What happened with Libya? Gaddafi gave up his chemical weapons. Next thing you know, he's overthrown and he's got a bayonet shoved up his rectum. A bayonet was shoved up his rectum. Who can forget this picture? Who can forget when Hillary Clinton found out, just before she was about to have an interview, we came, we saw, he died, ha! What an evil bitch. Evil. Libya was one of the most advanced countries in the Middle East. One of the most advanced countries. When people got married in Libya, Gaddafi bought them a house. Libya had universal health care. In many ways, it was more civilized than America. Yes, he was a brutal dictator, but there's lots of brutal dictators in the world. Zimbabwe recently got rid of one. He was there for decades. Did America go in and try and get rid of him? With all the genocide that he inflicted on his people? No. Why is that? The only answer I can come up with is Zimbabwe really are short on resources. Libya had oil. North Korea, lots and lots and lots of minerals. It would be worth going in there as another power grab and another resource grab that we've seen in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then we come on to Syria. Assad gave up his weapons of mass, not weapons of mass destruction, his chemical weapons. And what has happened since? America have been ramping up this war, bombing him over and over and over. And that's not just Trump, that's Obama as well. I want to remind you of this clip from quite some years ago. It's not as if we weren't warned by the American government that this was what they were going to do.
Because I'd been through the Pentagon right after 9/11. About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iraq."
I hope saner heads prevail. I hope people start understanding that what is happening in the Middle East at the moment is predetermined. It was determined long ago by America what they were going to do. And they were going to make any excuse to go after these countries that they have done. Just just reel off the names. Somalia, Yemen. You know, Americans had never heard of these countries. Some Americans had never heard of them 20 years ago. He said that they were going to do it, and they've done it. You've only got to look at the rest of that list. Who's on it? And where does it end? Iran. Now, North Korea, okay, that's something that's come up in the last few years. However, it was never a threat. It was never really a threat until Trump came in with his rhetoric of, "We're the big guys and my button is bigger than yours and my button works," and all that sort of thing. It's just pathetic. And do you think the media in America are going to hold him accountable for what he's just said? Do you think that Great Britain, our UK government, are going to oppose what he's doing? Well, this is what Boris Johnson said. He said, "Hey, we'll back him," which worries me greatly, because we're going to get dragged into this war as well. And our tax dollars, MMT is about to have a fit with me saying that, but our tax dollars are going to go towards more death and destruction. Fox News are going to beat the drum for war, as they always do. MSNBC are probably going to bring on Brian Williams when it all kicks off, or if it all kicks off, and Brian Williams will start reciting Leonard Cohen, the glory and the beauty of our weapons. Fareed Zakiri will come on and say, "Oh, now the president is really presidential." It's fucking pathetic. It really is. You may wonder why the banner to my channel says "the media sucks," because that's who I hold accountable. The First Amendment is there for a reason. Democracy cannot function without a working and free press. Without it, it goes away. Without it, corruption becomes rampant. Without it, we fall into an Orwellian nightmare, which is what we're living in right now. I hadn't planned on doing a video today. I was actually going to have the weekend to do some stuff personally, but I had to make this video to just try and get people to understand. Kim Jong-un has, the Kim regime, the North Koreans have said, just stop the war games and we'll stop this ramping up of our nuclear and weapons testing. That's all I want. Is that too unreasonable to ask? Just ask yourself, is it too unreasonable to ask? I know people are going to say, well, they've said this before in the 90s or whatever it was, and they've gone back on it. Things have moved on since then. Things have got way more serious. The Kims don't want nuclear war. The Kims know. They know in North Korea that if the shit goes down, their country is going to be a parking lot within about 6 months. The problem with it is the ramifications of it. Other countries are going to get involved. Mistakes are going to get made, and we're going to run the risk, a serious risk, of World War III. I have spoken to many people about the fact, many Americans about the fact that this offer is on the table, and it's still on the table from the North Koreans. Stop the war games. That's all you've got to do. Stop the war games on their border, and they cease their nuclear program, and they stop advancing their weapons program. Just cease it. They won't do it. You got to ask, why is that? Is it because the threat of war means, hey, we're going to get scared in America, and even more money is going to go to the military-industrial complex, and less money to healthcare and social security and benefits, the things that help the fucking people of America? Is more money going to go to the rich cocksuckers who are screwing your country over? You're damn right it is. They're using the McCarthyist playbook with Russia, and they're doing the same with North Korea. They are scaring the Americans. North Korea is no threat. No threat whatsoever. Who have North Korea ever invaded? Which country has North Korea oppressed since the country was split up? By America. Let's not forget that fact. It was America that actually caused this with the Korean War. This is why we have this geopolitical position now. I have spoken to many people who have not got a clue that this offer from North Korea is on the table. Americans just don't know. I bet you there are people watching this right now that don't know it's been on the table for the last 3 presidents. Why? Because the media won't fucking tell you, that's why. It's left to independent agencies like me, like Jimmy Dore, like Secular Talk, like David Pakman, like Humanist Report, like the Rational National. All these people know it, and all these people have been saying it over and over and over again. Just stop the war games. That's all. I had to have a rant. I'm going to now go away for it and have a nice weekend and just hope that we don't get into World War III. I'm sorry if you think it's hyperbolic, but it's not. This is fucking serious. This could end a serious amount of lives. And we need to rein him in, and the press need to rein him in. The press need to advise people, listen, this is what's happening. This is the real story. But all that will happen is they'll bring on people from the Army and the Navy and the Air Force who are all, yes, we need to be tough with North Korea. They'll bring on people who are paid by the military-industrial complex. They won't tell you they're paid by the military-industrial complex. They haven't before. But we know that they've done it. The guy at the New York Times who actually ran the story that ousted MSNBC as to bringing on people from the military-industrial complex that had been paid off to have these pro-war positions, he won a Pulitzer. Did it change anything in MSNBC? Did it? No, of course it didn't. Please share this video and share any thoughts on the Hill article or any other people in media who are just reporting on this. Get the facts to people. Get them to understand, listen, it doesn't have to be this way. America don't have to be so aggressive with North Korea. If they just left North Korea alone, this would all go away. Please subscribe. Please hit the bell. Till next time. peace. Hopefully we'll still be here next time. Take care.